It's that time again, dear internet, where we compare one shooty thing to the other shooty thing. It is the Sig Sauer P365XL Romeo 0 compared to the Springfield Armory Hellcat RDP. Are you ready? Stand by. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm so glad you can join me here. And to my YouTube manual reviewer, I need to show you this picture from the Sig Sauer website of what a P365XL Romeo 0 looks like. And then this picture from the Springfield Armory website of what the Hellcat RDP looks like. So when I hold these guns up, you won't say, "Hey, those are modified guns," and demonetize my video like you like to do. They're not modified guns. And in this review, I won't be promoting the sale of any regulated items. So this is advertiser-friendly content at its finest. So jumping right in, guys, you're gonna say, well, the Hellcat RDP is a lot bigger than the P365XL, and not really. So if I line up the tip of the beaver's tail, the Hellcat RDP is slightly longer in the muzzle, but the grip length is basically the same. The guns are pretty much the same size, since the muzzle dimension is the dimension that if you're concealed carrying, you don't really care about because it goes down in your waistband. It's not that big a deal, and if I had to guess, it's roughly ½ an inch longer. So the compensator on the RDP does make the gun a little bit longer, but having carried both guns, I can promise you, they feel like the same gun. Their weight is comparable, so they're very, very similar. They're certainly designed to compete in the same niche, and as a result, they are pretty similar guns. Now, the Romeo 0 that comes on the P365XL has a housing made out of plastic, so they're able to keep the MSRP down, and that all sounds well and good until you get to the point where you need to buy magazines, and that's when the Hellcat RDP starts coming out smelling like a flower. The magazines for this bad boy are about $30, and the magazines for this bad boy are between $40 and $50, depending on the time of year, how available they are, and where you have to buy them. You get an 11 and a 13 rounder with the RDP, and you will get two 12-round magazines with the P365XL Romeo 0. They both have ridiculously long cartoonish names, so I can't give anybody any bonus points there. Both guns use this laser etched finish to do the fine fissured texture on the grips. I will say that the Hellcat has a better grip surface. It feels like it bites into your hand more when you put a squeeze on it. As far as actually rubbing against your stomach when you carry it, neither one of these is going to have an edge. But when you're shooting, I feel like the Hellcat RDP texture is better. But the P365XL grip module, I think, is better shaped. When you're gripping the gun, the relief under the trigger guard is a little bit better, so geometrically the gun feels like it locks in a little bit better. For most people who are going to pick up this gun, I think that the P365XL is going to fit in their hands better. That said, the rails, Sig uses a proprietary rail, which means you have to buy Sig lights, although I think the new Surefire XSC does come with a P365 variant, while the Hellcat uses a more traditional design with a rail key. The rail key design seems like it would be more stable if you are somebody who wants to hang a light off of a concealed carry skinny 9. Coming back further on the grip, the Hellcat is now offered with a safety, and it is fully ambi, and it is a style of safety that you can sweep off like a 1911, or you can flick it on, put the gun in your holster, then flick it off from the outside side so that you have a gun that is totally safe to holster with, which is a feature if you're an appendix carrier that's not a bad thing to have. But the way that the safety is designed, there is no way at all you can get this thing to go on unless you intentionally put it on. So the safety is a total non-liability. You can ignore it fine, or you can just use it as something to holster safely with and then turn it off in your holster. So the manual of arms would be the same as the P365XL. That said, there is a trigger blade safety on the Hellcat, and there is no trigger blade safety on the P365. Personally, I like to have a trigger blade safety on a striker fired gun. Not having a trigger blade safety honestly makes me want to have a manual safety. It just doesn't feel all that safe. And as far as the triggers are concerned, the P365XL has a straight X5 style blade trigger that when you pull it back right just before the 90-degree mark, you get on the wall and you press into it and it's just mushy. It's It's like pressing two carrot sticks into each other until one of them kind of snaps, and there it was, my carrot stick snapped and the gun has fired, and it breaks right at a 90-degree angle. Whereas the Hellcat has a little bit more curve to the trigger, but it's still kind of like a straight blade safety, and I'm on a very, very hard wall. It mushes just a tiny, tiny little bit, and then a very clean snap release, and then some over travel. Between these two triggers, I definitely give the more shootable trigger award to the Hellcat RDP. They updated it to whatever trigger weirdness was on the original Hellcat, and I can say that the trigger is at least as good as it used to be, if not better. Both companies' lawyers thought that we needed loaded chamber indicators at the top of the hood on the gun, so both of the guns will smoke the lens of their optic. However, both are pretty far away from the breech face, so it's not as big a deal as it has been on other guns. Both guns come with high visibility front sights. It's a green on the P365XL. It's a bright yellow on the Hellcat. Both have a tritium vial. However, the rear sight on the P365 comes from the optic body on the Romeo 0, whereas the Hellcat has a proper rear sight that has this little U-notch going on right here. So you get the ball in a cup sight picture, but it's honestly a pretty good sight picture. Both guns' backup iron sights work just fine, so I can say that between the sights, I call it a draw. I don't love the Romeo 0, and the auto adjuster on the Hex Wasp isn't my preferred style of sight, but both sights honestly have worked for me in the testing that I've done. As far as accessories are concerned right now, as far as holster support is concerned, there's way more holster support for the P365XL. It's just been out longer. The RDP is starting to get holster support for it. Roger Barrera over there at QVO Tactical is making pretty dope holsters for that, so check him out. As far as shooting experience between these two guns is concerned, because the Hellcat has this little compensator, it actually is a softer shooting gun. Not a whole lot softer, but it is softer shooting. And you're not really gonna notice it if you have both hands on the gun and a very good grip, but you start to shoot the gun one-handed and it becomes very clear how much the compensator actually does do between these two guns. Both of these guns are very, very accurate. I am always amazed when I verify zero on the P365XL that the gun is just so accurate. I mean, it is hole-on-hole accurate, but similarly, shooting groups with the Hellcat RDP, I was printing itty-bitty groups. So the Hellcat is a tech driver in its own right as well. So all of that said, if you do the whole, like, if I could only have one, which one would I pick? Well, it's gonna go with the Hellcat RDP. As mentioned, it shoots a little bit nicer than the P365XL. It has a manual safety, which I personally am a fan of. I compete with single action guns, and having a manual safety is kind of second nature to me, but even if I choose to just holster with it, then flip the safety off, that's an option for me as well. The slightly longer muzzle makes the holster bodies just a little bit longer, and honestly, I think somewhere between like a 4 to 4¼ inch barrel is, for my body size and how I carry appendix, optimum for my length. So the longer muzzle actually works better for me as far as comfort while concealed carrying with the Hellcat RDP. The Hex Wasp sight honestly isn't my favorite, but it's not bad, honestly. Like, I don't dislike it enough to where I would want to spend money and change it out. So it works well enough from the factory. The fact that it's got these little grippy wings to act as a slide racker is also a pretty cool feature. So I'm legitimately curious, if you had to pick between these two guns, which way would you go and why? Be sure and sound off in the comments and let me know why. If you've made it this far, I'm recommending you watch the Hellcat RDP review, and underneath it you can find the P365XL review. And always, like the video, share it with your friends. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.